It's often said that game sense comes with time and can't be improved by watching videos alone. And although it is true that you can't just teach game sense, you can teach people how to gain it faster. A lot faster. What's up, ProGuides fam? I'm Kangas, and today I'm talking all about game sense and more specifically how to gain it quicker. So hit that sub button and let's just get right into it. Alright, so the first step to improving your game sense at record speed is to always consider what you did wrong at the end of each round or just whenever you die. Usually there's going to be a learning experience in every single round that you play. And all you have to do is reflect and consider if you should have played anything differently. Whenever you die, or even if you don't die, there's almost always something that you can improve on. And by taking just one moment to think about it, you'll be able to get a bit more game sense and improve your decision making every single round. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to see what you did wrong right away, so in order to make sure that you're getting the most out of your deaths, you should try and ask yourself some questions to guide you in the right direction. Things like, was this fight favorable? Did I need to take this fight? And would I do the same play again? These are all great questions to ask, but you could also think of questions like, was there another way to achieve the same goal? Was there any teammate nearby that could have helped me out? Or did I have any utility left? By asking all of those questions, you're making sure that you're really thinking about the way that you died, if you died for a good cause, or just misplayed. Sometimes you're gonna end up taking a really good fight, but still miss completely, in which case the issue isn't the decision that you made, and you can just let it go. Whiffing happens to anyone, and all it should really tell you is that you might need to work on your mechanics some more. But more often though, I see CSGO gamers taking ridiculous fights or just holding horrible angles, getting killed because of it, and then blaming their aim instead. Something that you can do to review your deaths is software like NVIDIA Shadowplay or even a program like Overwolf. Both of these programs allow you to clip your deaths and therefore allow you to take a second look at how you died every time. It might sound kind of stupid, but it's very often really informative and a great way to get a better perspective where you don't have to think about the game as it's happening. I know there's lots of pros that shadowplay their deaths just to look at them again right after they die, and it's especially helpful if you don't know what you did wrong. Just in general though, make sure that you review your deaths and you should see yourself start to climb. And before we move on to further tips, we've got to cover our question of the day. Today's question is, what do you think is more important, mechanics or game sense? I mean, obviously you need a mix of both, but some people think that game sense is more important where others think mechanics are. I'm more leaning to the game sense side of things, but I want to hear your thoughts, so let me know in the comments down below. Alright, the next topic that you need to start thinking about is man advantages. It's very rare for people in matchmaking and face it to even consider man advantages when it is the key to most decisions in pro play. The simple truth is that what is a good decision in one situation can be completely throwing in another. Sure, there's always extra factors, but by far the biggest one across the board and the one that you really need to understand, if nothing else, is just simple advantages. What team has the advantage? How big is their advantage? And what is their win condition? To just sketch you a scenario, if you for example are playing Mirage on the T side, you've lost your A ramp lurk to an early push and your B player died to an opera car, leaving you with your two teammates in 3 versus 5 in mid. It's pretty obvious that you are in a disadvantageous position. When it comes to how big the advantage is, that's of course always up for debate, but since you lost ramp and are 2 people down, I'd argue that your opponent should have like an 80 or 85% chance of winning, unless they just massively misplay. Their win condition is also not that hard to meet. All they have to do is stay alive, play with their teammates, and secure trades. That means that the pressure is on all of your team instead of theirs, meaning that you guys need to do something or else you should just lose the round. An issue I see a lot of people have is just playing off their feelings. So if they're feeling scared to peek, they won't peek. And if they're feeling confident, they swing as wide as they possibly can. The reason this is usually bad is because it oftentimes results in the opposite of good decision making. If you're unlikely to lose the round anyway, and you need to do something risky to change the outcome of the round, you'll just sit back and essentially roll over. And if you don't have anything to do because you're already up a few people, you're feeling so confident that you peek anyway and throw lots of rounds in the process. Occasionally, losing on paper unlosable rounds just because somebody hits the clip of their lifetime is acceptable and will happen to anyone, but structurally throwing man advantages by over peeking is not. But just thinking about man advantages isn't quite enough. You actually have to apply it to your decision making and then review on your mistakes. The best way to do that is of course by looking at your demos, that way you'll be able to comfortably rewatch the entire game and review on all of the little things that you may have done wrong. Usually dying itself isn't the mistake, but oftentimes everything that led up to it, meaning that just reviewing your deaths isn't always going to do the trick. In order to improve your game sense as fast as possible, you need to recognize all of the mistakes that you're making, even the ones early round and before you died. In order to actually notice all those things and improve upon them, there's only one thing that you can do, and that's reviewing your demos. Even still though, reviewing demos can be difficult, so in order to truly get the most out of it, we recommend doing it with a coach. Oftentimes people make mistakes without even realizing them, and they aren't able to spot those mistakes until they become a much more experienced player, wasting hundreds of hours in the process. Of course, it's a game, and if you just want to play to pass the time, that's fine. But if you want to get better and challenge yourself to be as high rank as you possibly can, then that's not going to cut it. With a coach that already has experience though, you'll be able to see all the mistakes that you're making and also be given an easy way to fix those problems. Basically, you'll be left with a solid idea of your strengths and weaknesses, plus a clear goal to work towards, so that you can start improving once again. Even without a coach though, watching your demos is still better than not doing it at all, so make sure that you don't let the potential go to waste. Another thing that you could start doing in order to more easily and effectively predict your opponents is climbing into their heads and quickly checking what they might be thinking, or at least to the extent that's possible. Of course, you won't always know exactly what your opponents are thinking or planning out, but you could think to yourself what you would do in their situation. Just to give you an example, it could be as simple as, we've just absolutely shut down their A take and they couldn't even get a single kill. That means that the A hit probably didn't really feel good for your opponents, and they might be thinking of something along the lines of trying B. This means that you guys can probably stack an extra player there, or at least be ready to rotate to it. Or alternatively, you could even push A early, together with a teammate, and instantly verify if your educated guess was right. If it was, you could instantly start a fast flank, and your opponents are going to be really tilted if you're already behind them 30 seconds into the round. But outside of this, there's even more ways to predict your opponent. For example, if it's an open clutch, so either a 1v1 with a lot of time left, or even something along the lines of a 3v3, you can always recount the info both you and your opponents have. If they spotted 2 out of 3 defenders on A, then it's super likely that at least one person is quickly making their way over to B, meaning that you probably want to leave just one person hiding on A and then stack 2 on B. But you don't have to predict entire teams at once though. You could also do it on a lot more individual level. For example, if you've been opping window with a lot of success, you could probably expect that your opponents not dry peek it anymore, meaning that if they still peek window, it's going to be on the back of some utility, which again means that you most likely don't want to be there, at least not every round. If you're just going to sit window, you're only going to be waiting for the smokes to fade, while you could be doing something a lot more proactive, for example from connector or on either of the bomb sites. There's honestly a bunch of situations where this can be applied, and it's way too much to go over in just one video, but the gist of it is that by placing yourself in the position of your opponents, you should be able to predict a large amount of their actions. And of course, if you'd like to know more about this and go way more in depth, our coaches are always willing to help you out. And that brings up our final tip for today, but it's a really big one, and that one is reading the economy. Reading the economy of yourself, your teammates, and your opponents is a really big and fundamental part of Counter-Strike. You need to know how much money you'll have in the coming round so that when you're ecoing, for example, you don't buy too much. You also need to make sure that your teammates are in a similar situation and your buy is more or less coordinated. But perhaps most importantly, you need to keep tabs on the economy of your opponents. Knowing what money your opponents have exactly can be kind of difficult and will require a lot of experience and demo watching. But to give you a good idea of it, you need to be looking for 2 things: loss bonus and players surviving on the past rounds. Loss bonus is important to look at mostly to find out whether or not your opponents will have to force or decide to double eco, and players surviving on 1 rounds will be needed to find the state of their economy. On the CT side, winning a round with just 2 players alive will result in the team losing money. 3 players will keep the money pretty much unchanged, and more than that will mean profit. On the T side, things are a little easier. 2 players will mean a small loss, 3 players means profit, and more than 3 means that you may as well buy an auto sniper with all the money that you just gained. Well, not really, don't do that, but it wouldn't destroy your economy, at least not right away. And just to give you an example though, if you're losing 0-5 on the T side, but all the rounds have been close, with always 1 to 2 people surviving on the defending side, now you and your team finally managed to post the first round on the board. Because the rounds were so close though, you've instantly destroyed your opponent's economy. Then the other factor we talked about, loss bonus, well, since they've won everything so far, they have the minimum loss bonus of 1400, meaning that they're gonna have 1400 or slightly more on some players. And because ecoing on 1400 money doesn't make that much sense, you should thus expect a force buy and an eco round in the following. So as long as you guys play safely and don't run into pistol stacks, you should be able to recover the game from 0-5 to 3-5, all because of 1 key round. Like I said at the beginning, game sense can't just be taught through a video, but hopefully this one helped you learn a few ways to develop it faster. If you did, make sure to leave a like and sub to the channel so that you don't miss out on our future tips. That's it for today, so best of luck in the grind, everybody, and as always, I'll see you next time.